Daggerheart's latest expansion is here, and with it comes 4 new classes, a bunch of new ancestries and communities, campaign frames, adversaries, and environments. But in this video, we will be focusing on one of the newest classes added to Daggerheart, the Witch. Firstly, let's begin with the Witch's class features, starting with Hex. Mark a stress to temporarily hex a target within far range. While hexed, the target gains a penalty to their damage rolls in difficulty equal to your tier. The maximum number of creatures you can hex at one time is equal to your spellcast trait. A pretty solid class feature, especially with being able to lower the difficulty, since that will just in general make rolling against targets much easier. Which by the time you get to tier 4, that's a -4 to difficulty, and up to 5 targets at once. Which is honestly really strong and valuable throughout the entire course of the campaign. Next to get Commune. Once per long rest, during a moment of calm, you can commune with an ancestor, a deity, a spirit, or an otherworldly being. Ask them a question, then roll a number of d6s equal to your spellcast trait. Choose one of the results and reference the chart below for the effect. The chart has varying options of what the witch can see, from vague things such as flavor and smell, up to being able to psychically experience the scene. This ability is just a cool way to just gain information, and overall, just a good ability for exploration and stuff like that. For the Witch's Hope feature, they get a Witch's Charm. When you or an ally within far range fails an action roll, you can spend 3 hope to change it into a success with fear instead. A really strong ability that even though it is with fear, so the turn will go right back to the GM, but obviously with failure, that was already going to happen. So this just guarantees that if you or a party member doesn't succeed, at least something gets accomplished before the GM gets the spotlight. Now we move on to subclasses, which the Witch has 2. Hedge and Moon. Let's begin with Hedge, which is all about being a traditional witch and crafting potions and remedies to boost yourself or the party. At their foundation, they first get Herbal Remedies. When you or an ally in a scene clears 1 or more hit points or stress as a result of using a consumable, increase the number cleared by 1. It's a decent ability, but does rely on stocking up on healing or stress-relieving potions, which depending on your GM or setting, could be plentiful or hard to come by. But if you get plenty of them, then this just makes potions that much more useful. Next up, they get Enchanted Talisman. Once per rest, you can imbue a small item with your protective essence. Spend any number of hope to place equal number of tokens on this card. When the person holding the talisman takes damage, spend a token to reduce the number of hit points they mark by 1. Clear all tokens from this card when you take a rest. This is a very useful defensive feature, since it allows whoever wields it to be even more tanky, and the best part about it is, it doesn't have to be yourself. You can have anyone in your party take the talisman. So let's say you have a frontline fighter that isn't a guardian, who can't reduce damage in any way. You can give the talisman to them and use hope to reduce HP damage, or you could give it to a squishy party member to help them survive better. For their specialization, they get Walk Between Worlds. During a moment of calm, make a spellcast roll. Once per rest, on a success, you can mark a stress to step beyond the Veil of Death and converse with any nearby spirits. Place a number of tokens equal to your spellcast trait on this card, and remove 1 each time a spirit answers a question. When the last token is removed, or at the end of the scene, you return to the mortal realm in the same spot you left it. So in D&D terms, witches get Speak with Dead, which in both systems is very useful, since it is a very good way to gather information, which you wouldn't be able to gather before. Although the main difference is, at least mechanically, there is no limitation on interrogating adversaries you have defeated. Obviously narratively, the GM could put up some roadblocks to make the spirit less hospitable to your questions to them, but there's nothing mechanically stopping the witch from defeating an assassin trying to take them out, and then interrogating said assassin to get information on who hired them. Next feature they get is Vexing Malison. You have advantage on attacks against hexed creatures. Not much needs to be said, you get advantage on enemies you hex, which is one of the main features as a witch, so it'll just be very useful throughout the entire campaign. For their mastery, they only get 1 feature, which is Circle of Power. Once per rest, mark a circle on the ground outlining a very close area around you, and place a number of tokens equal to your spellcast trait on this card. While within the circle, you and your allies gain a +2 bonus to damage thresholds, attack rolls, and evasion. Remove a token each time you or an ally within the circle makes an action roll or invades an attack. This spell lasts until the last token is removed, or you exit the circle. On the surface, this sounds incredibly strong, and don't get me wrong, it's pretty good with the bonuses to threshold attacks, and invasion especially. But my main issue is the range. Since very close range, for those who don't know, is a maximum of 10 feet, which is really not that far, and especially means that to get a full use of this ability, everyone has to stick very close together, which means 1 AoE can damage or affect the whole party. In my opinion, the bonuses don't make up that difference. So a cool feature on the surface doesn't really gel well with what typical parties should do. Next subclass option to get is Moon, which is all about using celestial power to enhance your magical prowess. Further Foundation to get Knight's Glamour. Make a spellcast roll to glamour yourself in a bewitching facade, while Glamour you have advantage on rolls that leverage your illusory appearance. Additionally, adversaries within close range must mark a stress to attack you. Unless you mark a stress to maintain your Glamour, it drops when you mark a hit point or deal damage. A very cool feature that has uses both in and outside of combat, since outside of combat is very good in a variety of situations. For example, could use the facade to sneak into places you normally couldn't, could easily persuade someone, or even the opposite direction, you could make someone more scared of you than your normal appearance would have. And in combat, it is useful as a pseudo-evasion bonus, since it will give the GM pause if they would want to target you at all, since they would have to then mark a stress to even attack you, which depending on how useful stress is to the adversary or how much they have already used, can really put them in a pickle. Further specialization, they get Moonbeam. Once per session, you conjure a column of moonlight that illuminates an area within close range, until the scene ends. While bathed in this moonlight, you and your allies gain a +1 bonus to spellcast rolls and can see through illusions. A solid ability that just gives a general boost to spellcasters in the party, which is most of the classes in Daggerheart, which does make this ability pretty strong in that regard. Being able to see through illusions, though, is a bit niche, but when it's useful to have. Next up, they get Ire of the Pale Light. When a hexed creature within very far range fails an attack, they must mark a stress. Very simple ability, but extremely effective, since now it gives the enemy a penalty, other than the obvious, for missing, and can be very handy to stress them out, especially if they are an adversary that can be spotlighted multiple times, or if they rely on stress quite a lot. Further Mastery, they get Lunar Phases. At the beginning of each session, roll a d6, and place it on this card. You gain a matching effect until the end of the session. Once per rest, you can spend a hope to increase the value of this die by 1. If you increase the value of a 6, it becomes a 1. Which, when we refer to the chart, on a 1, you can spend a hope to negate minor damage, essentially negating damage. On a 2 to 3, gaining a +2 to damage rolls. On a 4, gives a +3 to damage thresholds. And on a 5 to 6, a +1 to evasion. So this capstone overall is a solid ability in terms of what you get out of it, since every option is very good, with no real bad ones. The only real issue I have is that if you roll a 2 or a 5, it's completely useless to spend hope to increase the value, since you will still be in the same tier, which means you're stuck with that feature for the whole session. It should be an increase of the moon phase and not the value, so instead of spend a hope to increase the dice value, it should be spend a hope to increase the moon phase, or something like that. So that even if you roll a 2 or a 5, you can still make use out of that final aspect of the ability. And that is the Witch in Daggerheart. Overall, I would say it's a really balanced class that is neither too powerful, but not too weak, and as a whole is very flavorful and fun class to play, which, at the end of the day, when we brush aside stats and mechanics, that's all we ask for in a class. If you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like and subscribe to keep up to date on all things Daggerheart. Bye for now.